Have you ever been in a situation where you jumped to a conclusion only to realize later that you got it all wrong? Maybe at work, at home, or even just in daily conversations? Well, today, we're going to talk about keeping things in perspective and how our inner dialogue influences the way we see events. Let's break it down with some real-life cases from onboard a ship. Case 1. The missing breathing apparatus, BA. Imagine this. A bosun is about to start a job. He goes to the deck store to grab his tools. While searching, he notices that a breathing apparatus, BA, is missing. Now, at this moment, what do you think his first thought was? A. I bet that OS forgot to return it again. B. Someone broke it and didn't report it. C. Maybe it was sent for its regular inspection. Most of us, like the bosun, would immediately assume A, because he remembered that an OS had forgotten to return the BA before. Based on that past experience, he jumped to a conclusion and reported the OS to the chief officer. But guess what? The BA was actually sent for an annual inspection. The bosun was wrong. His assumption led to an unnecessary accusation. Now, let's look at another case. Case 2. The missing binoculars. An OOW, officer on watch, is about to start his watch in congested waters. But when he reaches for his binoculars, they're gone. His first thought? A. The last watchkeeper must have moved them. B. Someone broke them and didn't report it. C. Maybe I moved them and just forgot. His first instinct was to assume someone misplaced them, but then he stopped and thought, wait, maybe I moved them myself. So instead of accusing someone, he decided to search first. And guess what? He found them in his cabin. Had he jumped to conclusions, he might have blamed someone unfairly and escalated a non-issue. The ladder of inference. Why we jump to conclusions. So, why do we make these assumptions so quickly? This happens because of a mental process called the ladder of inference. Here's how it works. 1. Reality and facts. What actually happens. 2. Selected reality. What we notice. 3. Interpreted reality. How we make sense of it. 4. Assumptions. The conclusions we jump to. 5. Beliefs. What we think is true. 6. Actions. What we do based on that belief. The bosun and the OOW skip straight to assumptions and actions, instead of considering other perspectives. So how do we avoid this? Challenging your own thoughts. The key is challenging your assumptions before reacting. Here's how. Look for evidence. What's the proof for and against my thought? Am I ignoring other explanations? Am I jumping to conclusions? Search for alternatives. Are there other possible explanations? How would someone else see this? Am I being too rigid in my thinking? Put thoughts into perspective. Is this as bad as I'm making it? What's the worst that could happen? If it did happen, would it really be that bad? Case 1 revisited. What if the bosun had challenged his thoughts? Let's see what would have happened if the bosun had interrupted his inner dialogue with challenging questions. Step 1. Look for evidence. The bosun remembers that an OS previously forgot to return a BA. What should the bosun do? A. Call the CO and report that the OS probably forgot to return it again. Call the CO and report the missing BA. C. Look for evidence. The right approach. The bosun should look for evidence before jumping to conclusions. What is the evidence that the OS actually took the BA? Am I focusing on my negative experience with this OS and ignoring other information? Am I jumping to conclusions without checking all the facts? Step 2. Put thoughts into perspective. The bosun finds that the accident prevention officer's checklist recorded the BA's absence. He starts to panic, fearing that he will be accused. What should he do? A. Calm down and put his thoughts into perspective. B. Call the OS and ask where the BA is. C. Call the CO and say he didn't lose the BA. The right approach. Even if I was blamed, Would it really be that bad? How likely is it that I will be blamed? Is it as bad as I am making out? What can I do to get through it? Step 3. Search for alternative explanations. The bosun calms down and decides to investigate further. What should he do? A. Call the OS and demand he find the BAB. Search for alternative explanations. C. Leave without informing anyone. The right approach. Is there another way of looking at this? Are there other possible explanations? How would someone else think in this situation? Am I being too inflexible in my thinking? Reflection and prevention. Now let's reflect on similar experiences in your everyday life. Have you ever been in a situation where you assumed the worst, only to later realize that the situation was not as bad as it seemed? Ask yourself, what would have happened if you had interrupted your inner dialogue with challenging questions? How can this approach help improve safety on board? Overview. As seen in these cases, keeping things in perspective helps prevent panic and rash decisions. Our inner dialogue is linked to emotions, but we can train ourselves to influence it. By slowing down our thinking, questioning our assumptions, and searching for alternative explanations, we create space for better decision-making. This not only enhances our personal well-being, but also improves safety and teamwork on board.